as biblical prophecy continues to come to pass, and billions upon billions are dead asleep, the pieces continue to move forward on the chessboard of the dragon. The question is, do you see the handwriting on the wall? Or are you blinded by the God of this world? You see, when it comes to the game of chess, one of the greatest strategies is a great tactical maneuver called distraction. Its essence is to deflect the opponent's enemy pieces that play an important role from their positions, and eventually gets a checkmate. You ever wonder why there are so many pawns on the board? 16 in total. Because pawns are underestimated, they're overlooked, but they're used greatly to distract the opponent while the king makes moves behind the scenes. So as we continue in this series, The Whole World is a Stage, we will examine some pawns in the game that are being used to distract the masses from what the beast is doing behind the green screen curtain. And as God has allowed us to be faithful to warn you of these things that are now coming to pass, did we not tell you that by December that the US would be launching the digital dollar? Well, it looks like they're right on schedule. But remember that the Lord said, "My people perish because of a lack of knowledge." Do you know what ISO 222 is? Do you know what the blockchain truly means? Why do you think Hollywood is obsessed with the Ouroboros symbol? Because it represents the old serpent strangling the whole world with the beast system, and like a python strangling its prey, the biometric system through digital currency is being implemented right before your eyes to strangle out the faithful few who have refused the abomination. Remember, it is the mark, the name, and the number. And this is why the abomination and the biometric system are married as one. Because the great plan is that those who haven't taken the abomination will not be allowed to buy and sell in this digital empire. And while the masses are distracted with the pawns on the chessboard, the king of the world is strengthening the beast system behind the curtains. And what would be the odds that just as the US launches the digital dollar, the world religions unite under the authority of the beast? And what would be the odds that as the world gathers together, heading for Mount Sinai, the G20 summit just came to pass in Indonesia? And once again, the kings and the rulers of the earth gathered together to take orders from the Antichrist behind the curtains, to hunt down the faithful elect that have refused to bow the knee and take the abomination. And just as we have proven in the documentary, It Is Worse Than You Think, that the book of Revelation is not written in full chronological order. And as the prophecies of the book of Revelation in Matthew chapter 24 continue to unravel in this last hour, and you see biblical signs such as the river Euphrates drying up are happening right before your very eyes. Thousands upon thousands of false teachers scramble together to try to explain away the handwriting on the wall. And as mainstream Christianity mocks and denies the fact that the abomination is on the earth and that the beast is truly ruling from behind the scenes, Israel's chief rabbi just said he is holding secret meetings with their Messiah already. So there is nothing new under the sun, brothers and sisters. And just as they didn't understand biblical prophecy in the days of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the Holy Messiah, Yeshua the Messiah, even now, it is coming to pass once again that they are not seeing the truth, that they do not recognize what is right before their very eyes.
So, brother, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes, I can hear you just fine.
Amen. So, for anybody watching this, this is a beloved brother in the body of Christ. Brother D, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and your background. We've known each other for quite some time, by the grace of God, but if you could just let people know your background and your knowledge and understanding when it comes to this digital realm and what we're going to be talking today as far as the beast system and how it's moving much faster than people think, I would appreciate that. The mic is yours.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I've been in the technology field pretty much for my whole life. And I've been into computers, working with servers. I've also done a lot of work in hospitals and database systems and things of that nature. And I currently work in the IT field, currently in my current job. And what I've noticed coming down the pipe, if we want to go ahead and that's my brief summary of my experience and background. I work for cable TV companies. I work for hospitals. I've worked for, I've even had my own business at one time, repairing computers, and that's actually how me and Brother Works met. But
that's right. We immediately started talking about the Most High because, of course, above all your occupation, you're a child of God. Amen.
That's first, and so I just want to go ahead and get right into it. So there's a thing. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of blockchain. I know pretty much everyone has heard of Bitcoin, and that's the colloquial token name for digital currency. That everyone knows Bitcoin, and that's what everyone thinks that blockchain is. It's just Bitcoin, but it's actually more involved in that. There's a lot of different coins out there, and they're called altcoins, and they're not really a lot of them aren't really based on the blockchain of Bitcoin. They're separate chains, or and I don't want to get too complicated with this. I want to try to keep it simple so everybody can stay focused. But it's
Amen.
just like, say, for instance, you have, for instance, Nike shoes. You have Nikes, you have Adidas, and you have whatever else, you name it. Okay, so they all have their own different trademark. Okay, so that same thing with blockchain. You have these different companies or different tokens that are called altcoins, and they are similar to Bitcoin because they are blockchain based, but they're not really Bitcoin. Okay, so now we got that out the way. Let me go ahead and get into it. Okay, so what's going on that I see that's about to happen is the banks right now have come up with their own messaging system, and this is something that's going to be working in the background. You know how right now you can use your debit card, your credit card, or your even your what's that card?
Phone pay, like the phone pay and all of that.
Exactly. Zelle, Apple Pay, all of those things are getting ready to convert over to fully being digital. Okay, and right now it actually has been postponed until March when it's supposed to take full effect. But there's a thing called ISO 222, and that's a standard that all the banks, or the messaging system that all the banks are going to use to move the money over the network that they have created.
Now, may I ask you a question? And I don't know. I try to time myself so I don't interrupt you. I really want you to not be too interrupted, but unless I have a question. So may I ask you a question? My question is this. It's a good way to explain ISO 222. It's almost as if you have a whole bunch of streams of languages that come into a point and they leave in one river. In other words, this ISO 222 will make it one language. That was from my understanding when you told me about it, and I did my investigation. But is that right?
Yes, that is actually a good analogy of the situation. And it's funny that you said a river, because the main token that's going to be used is called Ripple, which is like a ripple of water.
Wow.
So Ripple is it's a company, and they have a token called XRP that they're going to use to move a lot of this value across the network. Okay, so what I'm concerned with is the major banks for these different nations. And you have like the European Central Bank, you have the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States, and you have all these other different banks around the world, these global banks that are going to try to issue their own digital tokens, and that's where I see we may have a problem.
Could you explain that and connect it to the B system so people have a better understanding of how this all ties in with the mark of the beast?
Okay, so with the what is it? The ECB is the CBDC. That's the terminology. Central Bank Digital Currency. That's what it's called, and that's where they can actually control what you buy and sell. If they don't like something you say, they don't like something you do, they can turn you off, and you won't be able to buy or sell. And that's basically what is written in the scriptures. You won't be able to buy or sell once you have accepted that mark. If someone says or do anything that the system doesn't like, they can shut their way of transacting business down. They won't be able to buy or sell food. They won't be able to buy or sell, do anything, basically. So they will have total control over your ability to buy and sell. And once again, as I was saying previously, they can also tie all this system down into anyone's medical records and things of that nature, and they can tie it into a database, and they will know whether or not you've accepted the mark, if you've taken this vaccination or whatever. And if you are not in compliance, if they so deem, they can Yeah, a person. Yes, not you, but you know what I mean. You as in plural, you as in the world. But yes, they can take a person, anybody that is associated with it. They can take them out of the system at any point in time.
Now, one thing I wanted to say to you is when we were doing missionary work overseas in Kenya, one example was they have what you call M-Pesa. And I was telling my wife, my children, and soldiers that were with us on this missionary trip, it was about 15 of us total. And I said, look at how simple it is, even in what the world would consider third world nations, right? Or nations obviously not in the same bracket as United States or the UK. Even in these nations where you would say, well, they don't have the infrastructure. But what they do have is everyone that has a cell phone, 95% of payments are done through M-Pesa, which is digital. It's like texting each other. If someone walks up to a kiosk and says, hey, let me get flour, milk, and eggs, okay, that'll be 500 shillings. Okay, I'm texting it to you right now. And I was meditating on that, and I said, wait a minute. All they got to do is choke the neck at the phone company to where anyone who hasn't taken the abomination, they simply can't pay their phone bill. And if they can't pay their phone bill, they no longer have service to pay, buy, and sell with M-Pesa. So it's even in third world places and other countries that are nowhere near the same caliber as these digital countries. And I just want your input on that.
Okay, so that's following along exactly what I'm saying. So what M-Pesa has started, or what they're probably using, is called a digital wallet. And you're able to put funds in that digital wallet, and you're able to send funds basically using a phone number, or you can use an email address, or you can use someone's, for instance, if you have their direct address to their like an inbox, I call it the wallet address. They can send money directly to that person, or it's called a pay ID. In some places, they call it a pay ID, where they can transfer the funds or transfer the digital payment over the network. So that's what these central banks are trying to get into. They're trying to create their version of this, and everyone's going to basically be issued a digital wallet, whether you want one or not, basically. And they will come out with something like their own type of token. I'm not sure. At one point in time, we thought it was going to be the Libra, the Libra token. And if anyone wanted to transact on their network, they will need to use the Libra token. And there was going to be a wallet set up, a global wallet or global currency set up to where if you wanted to participate in that market, you would need to have that wallet set up.
Now, was that just the U.S., the Libra, or was that like specifically?
I think it was at one point. The Libra was U.S. based. If I'm not mistaken, it was either Goldman Sachs or J.P. Morgan that was trying to use the Libra coins.
Wow, you know what's interesting is that the word Libra, it comes from a Latin word, and it literally means a pair of scales. I mean, It's very evident these Luciferians strategize everything from colors, numbers, dates, and the names of these things they're pushing. Everything has some kind of occult root or meaning or secret language to execute what they're doing. Even that name Libra, it goes right with biblical prophecy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that, man. Thank you for telling me that. And, of course, we appreciate your time. I just found out I've been monitoring. Months back, I warned the brothers and sisters that the U.S. was about to launch the digital dollar. By December was their plan, and they're a few days early. They just launched the digital dollar, and what would be the odds that at the same time they did that, my brother, the Vatican, the Pope, just united with all these false religions, and at the same time, and they were talking, there's rumor that they're going to allegedly what they believe is Mount Sinai with their own recreation of the commandments. Like, it's totally blasphemous. But then on top of that, the G20 summit in Indonesia just came to pass. So all of these things are happening at the same time. And I want to explain something, but it's also a way for you to have free ground to just speak your mind, led by the Messiah, on what you feel about this from your perspective, knowing and understanding the beast system more than others because of what you have, your experience for all of these years. So what I tried to explain, and it's sad that so many don't understand, but his sheep hear his voice, and those who have eyes to see it, ears to hear, can see it clearly. And one of the greatest analogies, actually terrifying at the same time, that Christ has ever given me, was that the Pharisees, in the days of the Messiah, when he came to the earth, they studied biblical prophecy day and night. Well, it would have been called biblical at that time, but they studied the ancient scriptures, particularly about the Messiah. But yet, when he was standing in front of them, they not only rejected him and didn't see prophecy happening, but even worse, they fought against him. Well, in essence, it was a blessing because he had to die for us that we may be saved. But my point is can't you see history repeating itself, that approximately 2,000 years later, all the prophecies that the so-called pastors and teachers and scholars, they've studied the biblical prophecy referring to the Antichrist, referring to the mark of the beast, referring to all of these signs, but yet once again, just like the book of Ecclesiastes says, that what was shall be. They're not seeing the prophecies. And they're mocking, and look at how many willfully took the abomination. The devil didn't even need to go to the extent of making everybody digital yet. He didn't even need to do it because people were so corrupted in their minds and so far from God, they willfully took the abomination without even really, if you look at it, there's 3 levels to witchcraft. There's manipulation, intimidation, and domination. Think about this, my brother, and then I want you to speak freely in the Messiah, is all the devil, all the dragon, the old serpent did with the beast system. He used manipulation and intimidation to get 70% of the world abominated, to take the abomination. He didn't even have to move to domination yet. And what I realize, and this is why we're making the sacrifice of time and labor and to do these documentaries, is to warn the faithful few, the 30%, who has not taken the abomination, that he's going to the 3rd tier, the 3rd level, which is domination. This is where it's fully implicated. Because one of the things these false teachers will say is, you're telling me the mark of the beast is here, but yet I can go to the store and buy bananas with money. And they laugh because they don't understand how prophecy opens like a scroll. It doesn't turn quickly like a page in the book. It unravels like a scroll. And
that's right.
Just as, and one thing, bro, and I don't want to, I've got so much to say, but I need to let you talk, is if you look at it, the gospel started in Israel. It started in Israel, and it didn't go to the ends of the earth right away. It was a gradual process, right? What would be the odds, my brother, that the abomination, the implementation started in Israel, and it spread it out to the entire world? So I had a lot to say, but I want your input on everything that I just said, please.
Okay. Well, I think it was out of fear that they were able to get 70%. because if you have more fear in man than you do in the Lord, then you've already lost.
God forbid, man.
So I think out of fear, a lot of people, they fear death more than they fear listening to the word of Christ. So that being said, if a lot of people had to do it in order to maintain their lifestyle, in order to keep food on the table for their children, a lot of people had to do it for various reasons, whatever reason it was. I'm not here to judge anyone, but all I can say is out of fear, most people fear losing something, and that is why they were able to manipulate 70% of the people into taking the abomination. And so we must first fear who? We must first fear the Lord.
That's right.
And we must have faith in the Lord. We must have on that full, all your armor must be on at all times. And if you walking in the Word and you have faith in the Lord, there's nothing that a man can say to you that should be able to move you to a point where you can do anything that can go against your faith.
Amen. Well said, my brother. And I hope everybody takes these words. Do not take them for granted. My brother taking the time out of his busy life to break these things down for all of us has to be valued more than gold. So, my brother, could you maybe break down how easy it is right now to go to the third level? So it started with manipulation, right? Mm-hmm. Coercing people to line up to take the abomination. And then it went to intimidation, emails being sent out. Matter of fact, one of the soldiers in the ministry was a sergeant in New York City. And he's seen all the threats being emailed across his department. If you don't take it, you're gone. And you know what's so crazy, and it's so sad. If you went up to random people and you said, "Hey, do you believe in Jesus Christ?" and whether to say yes or no, right? Because ultimately, preaching Christ is number one more than anything else. But when you get to the part, of asking them, "Hey, did you take that abomination?" Of course, you got to use the word abomination because YouTube will take a video down quick if you use that V word, right?
Right.
Isn't it interesting? Remember that alien show that came out, The V? Remember that? Yes. Is that not coincidence? I don't believe in coincidence, man. But what's crazy and so sad is when you ask them, immediately they'll start explaining away why. Don't you find that weird? How instead of now, of course, you got those that are just completely sold out as far as, they've been brainwashed for years. But the majority of people go, "Oh, yeah, I had to, man. I was going to lose my job. I wasn't able to get on a flight. I had to." So they instinctively, their spirit man will automatically start coming up with the excuses on why they had to do it. That's not normal. That's not normal. If you started walking up to people and said, "Hey, did you have breakfast this morning?" They're not going to go, "Oh, yeah, I had to, man. I was hungry and I needed energy for the..." They're not going to do that because they know instinctively there's nothing wrong with having breakfast. Right. So my question to you is, now that the manipulation, level 1, intimidation, level 2, have already caused so many, and I truly believe that the majority of people have fallen so far away from Christ that the shock of expecting a complete digital lockdown before people would start bowing their knee to the abomination. The shock that it didn't need to go that far right away, that people were so far from Christ. And look, we're not just talking the world, we're talking Christianity. We're talking people that went to Sunday church, people that supposedly spoke in tongues, pastors, so-called pastors that have been so-called shepherding for 30, 40 years. Were setting up shop in their own buildings for the abomination. There wasn't even a need to implement the third tier of domination, which is the actual implementation of a complete lockdown system of digital currency, where one cannot buy or sell except they prove they've been bitten by the serpent. What's your thoughts on that?
Wow. My thought on it is that's a really rough situation for any of us to be in. Like you were saying about the reason that they need to come up with an excuse before they can even explain to you why they took it. It's a yes or no question, and they got to give you the rundown on why they did it. So I think it's something in there where there's guilt associated. It's guilt. You're guilty by association. And so all of it, once if someone is guilty, sometimes they just start telling on themselves and don't even know it. So that's where I am with that. I think a lot of people they just don't believe that what's in the scriptures is really the word, or really the truth, or really the guiding light. Your beacon is what you should hold on to and what you should always look to in times of diversity. And I think there was I'm not sure what what's the passage where there's a man burning in hell, and he said, "Can you please go tell my brothers?" So
that's right.
And he said,
"No,
I've given you the prophets and the scriptures. And what makes you think they're going to leave a man come back from the dead?"
Oh, wow.
So let us examine this strategy and tactic called distraction. And as the masses are focused on watching Kanye West and other pawns like him, so will you take a walk with me as we microscopically examine how these pawns are created, hand-selected, and strategically placed on the chessboard to distract the masses from not paying attention to what the beast is doing behind the green curtains. I want to ask you a question. Who do you think are the type of people that Lucifer looks for when hand selecting his pieces for the game? What type of character causes men and women to qualify to be hand selected by that old serpent, the dragon? The answer lies within the character of Lucifer himself. The reality is, he is the epitome of narcissism and being a sociopath, completely and utterly in love with himself, and he doesn't care about anything or anyone other than himself, to the point he willfully deceived a third of the angels. And if that wasn't enough, once again using deception, his goal and agenda is to take as many people with him to the lake of fire. Now there's two main ways Satan finds the pieces to his game. Number one, he hand selects people that have his character. These have to be people that only care about themselves, that are capable of lying without blinking an eye, that are willing to do anything and everything to receive fame, wealth, and get to the top. What do you think he was trying to do when he met with our Lord God and Savior in the wilderness when he was fasting 40 days and 40 nights? He offered the Lord the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. But of course, he could never overcome Yeshua the Almighty. Now Satan goes through a process hand selecting those in his society. Many times he assigns them to be traumatized at a very young age. Whether it's rejection, abandonment, abuse on all platforms, whether it's mental, physical, sexual, emotional. He opens up the gateway of trauma to infiltrate the innocent victim, to fragment them, break them down, and build them back up to be mind controlled. So in part 2, we will focus on the true agenda of what he is doing with this Kanye propaganda to cause a distraction to what is really happening behind the scenes. It doesn't take too much investigation to see that Kanye West always wanted to be rich and famous, always speaking great swelling words about himself. And when you look at the different fragmented personalities of Kanye West, it's very evident to see that he is under mind control. And there are so many other personalities and roles that Ye has taken upon, but we'll get into those in a minute. You remember the movie Get Out? Millions upon millions watched it, but never really connected the dots. And what I'm about to say is one of the most important things that you have to understand when it comes to Hollywood and the occult. You see, within the black and white checkered board, there are many other games being played in the lives of the victims of the dragon, who have been mind controlled and fragmented by torture, brainwashing, trauma, and the list goes on. But what if I told you that once they cross that line, there are many people that are working for the beast that make sure certain celebrities, musicians and athletes, politicians do not get out of line, because even the most mind-controlled subjects can break free for a moment in time. Just like in the movie Get Out, when he took the picture, that flash of light caused that man to break free for that brief moment of time. They have to constantly reassign the mind control upon their victims, mostly pawns in the game that are used by Lucifer to distract the masses when greater things are being prepared against the bride of Christ. Have you ever heard of a movie that came out in the 90s called The Game? I want you to watch this, and we'll be right back.
What do you get for the man who has everything? Everything. Everything. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, Maggie.
I don't like her. So what brings you to town, Conrad? Everything all right?
October 12th. Nikki's birthday. This is for you.
Consumer Recreation Services.
Call that number.
Why?
They make your life fun.
What are you selling?
It's a game.
Game.
Specifically tailored for each participant.
John, chapter 9, verse 25. Whereas once I was blind, now I can see. Now I can see.
One day your game begins. You either love it or hate it.
Are you going to spend the rest of the evening prying at that clown's mouth?
Mr. Van Orton, is everything all right?
Ah, Mr. Van Orton.
Have we met?
I believe so.
Why are you following me? Find out about a company called Consumer Recreation Services.
They won't stop, Nick.
He's in on it.
I paid the bill. I paid him more to make it stop.
I need the police. They're gonna break into my house. I need toys with a bunch of depraved children. They're trying to kill me.
Who's behind this? Who did this to me? Why?
This is all the game.
Ah!
Right now, I am extremely dangerous.
You're behind the whole thing, aren't you?
No!
They make your life fun.
Now, brothers and sisters, I want to make it clear that I am not promoting these movies from Hollywood for you to go watch them. So with that being said, I want to show you how this movie was actually exposing what truly goes on in Hollywood with these celebrities that are hand selected, whether they're musicians, actors, politicians, athletes. When they get to a certain level of influence, Lucifer will send in his agents to make sure they remain under the control, that they remain under mind control. Handlers, you can say. Do you remember the movie, The Truman Show? I want you to watch this, and we'll be right back.
Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is. Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah!
Good morning!
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if?
No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey.
Once again, so many in Hollywood were in on this man's life, innocently walking around not realizing the people he thought was his friends, his trainer, his mailman, and the list goes on, were really agents watching him and monitoring him. This is one of the main reasons why so many musicians, athletes, celebrities, and so on are terrified to speak out the way Kanye West, now known as Ye, has been doing. Have you ever heard of a movie called The Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington? There was actually an original made way before him. But my question is, do you remember how many times in past documentaries have we exposed what Hollywood does? how they use lesser magic to deceive the masses and push their agenda in the midst of a movie to unsuspecting, blinded viewers. This is part of their ritual. In order for their magical spell to work, it is more powerful if they let the people know what they're doing, even if it's in a deceptive way. I truly believe that they were mocking by revealing what really goes on behind the scenes with those that rise to certain levels of fame and fortune. Satan always has to have a contingency plan on his subjects, on the pieces that he hand selects for the game. I want you to watch this trailer, and then we're going to combine the movie Get Out, The Game, The Truman Show, and Manchurian Candidate together so we can see a greater picture of what really goes on behind the scenes in the industry.
When I sleep, I dream. I don't want to dream.
Something happened out there in the desert that night during that mission, and it's not what we thought it was, and it happened on my watch.
We've been down this road with you before, yes?
No, sir. Not this road.
Congressman Shaw!
Sergeant Shaw, you ever dream about Kuwait?
Captain Marco!
How much do you actually know about your friend?
I served under him. He was a good man.
That's what the neighbors always say about serial killers.
Somebody put an implant inside me. I got a good feeling they put one in you, too.
You need to get help, Ben.
I'm not crazy, Shaw.
Raymond, this is J.B. Johnston of Manchurian Global.
We're strong supporters.
At a flick of a switch, we can adjust character, change personality.
These are not supposed to exist.
Raymond Prentice Shaw. Listen.
This is a coup. This is rich people funding bad science to put a sleeper in the White House.
Among the shareholders in Manchurian Global, you would find former presidents, supposed kings.
Yeah, I get it. They're big. They're huge.
And you bring me rumors and conjecture.
I started with nightmares, rumors, conjectures. That's a giant leap forward. Somebody got into our heads. Neurons got exposed and circuits got rewired. I think you should leave.
What are you doing?
I gotta find out what's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen.
He's delusional.
So watch where you going!
You swore to me that this was fail-safe. No leaks, no glitches. I will do whatever is necessary to protect my son.
We're gonna stop this and take them out.
I don't think they factored you in.
Hello, Captain. Do you remember me?
Man, I want to believe you.
Believe me. Help me. Or shoot me.
And once again, I want to go over the power of greater and lesser magic so you have this knowledge to defend yourself. There are certain laws in the spiritual realm and principles that Satan knows he has to abide by to open up certain doors in our dimension. Because God has given us, the human race, free will, the only way his power can operate against the masses is if he shows the people what he does and what his plans are. If they don't reject it, if they just go along with it, then his power will manifest in greater ways. But how he does this is very deceptive. He figured out a way in the last hour to use technology which can actually alter the waves of the brain, putting people in a submissive, docile, hypnotic state. And in doing this, millions upon millions watch movies, TV shows, play video games, and see news reports without even seeing there is magical spells, sigil, greater and lesser magic being operated against their very mind and soul. And as long as he shows the people, it doesn't matter if it's in the midst of a video game, or a cartoon, or a TV show, or most of all, a movie. Unsuspecting victims, blinded by the God of this world, think it's all just a movie, when in reality, they're showing you the things that actually happen, and the plans that they have prepared. So, using these movies, we shall have a discussion, you and I, and talk about what it really means when somebody enters into the realm of the industry and make their way to a certain level. At this point, they are, many, not all, become victims of mind control, where they have literal handlers that are assigned to them, and people highly trained to monitor them. And you see, 80% of the people that will follow around celebrities and athletes and people that break through to a certain level of fame and fortune, most of them they don't even know are watching them. Now, if there's anybody that struggles with paranoia or believes they are a victim of gang stalking, I do want to let you know I will be coming out with a video exposing this agenda in the near future, Lord willing. But you have to overcome paranoia, and you have to overcome fear if you struggle with that. Remember, Jesus Christ, Yeshua the Messiah, is truly the only way, and he can deliver you. Who the Son of Man sets free, who the Son of God sets free, and is free indeed. And this is why you must give your life to Christ today, truly, because you are not promised tomorrow. Repent of your sins. If I just put out a video telling you to give your life to Christ, how many views will it get? But out of a great concern for your salvation, I have to put it in the midst of a video that I know is more attractive to most of you. What is your appetite? Why do you desire to know more about Kanye West and the industry than you do about Christ and the kingdom of heaven? But with that being said, let us get back to exposing the enemy. Because we are called to do two things: reveal the glorious light of Christ and the gospel, and expose the plans of Satan. Combining these trailers together, the movie Get Out. Why do you think so many were drawn to this movie? Because instinctively they know deep down this is true. This really happens. So we're going to break down each movie. Get Out, I will give a brief outline, and after that, I'm going to break down that movie The Game and Truman Show together because they're very similar. And we're going to break down that segment of this research. And then finally, we shall investigate and break down the Manchurian Candidate, or should I say, the Manchurian Candidate. So with that being said, let us begin with the movie Get Out. I don't want to take too much time dissecting each portion. I do want to be brief, as I do want to respect your time. And in reality, I have so many videos I have to get done that I don't want to waste any time. Get Out is really based upon mind control. If you don't understand about mind control, you need to investigate it, but do it with prayer and fasting. It's important to cover your mind under the blood of the Lamb and protect yourself as you do these investigations, and not be sidetracked to where it takes away from your prayer life in Christ and your studying of the Word and fellowship with the beloved. With that being said, I look at that movie and I compare it to Kanye West and many just like him. And when I say just like him, I mean other pawns in the game that also made their way up by submitting to the will of the dragon, earning their ranks and becoming rich and famous, having a platform and being controlled by the god of this world in the chessboard of deception. If you remember in the movie, the mother was the main culprit, as well as her husband, as well as the father. But it was the daughter who would hunt after athletes and in particular black men. And she would slowly seduce them and lure them back to her home where her mother and father live, isolated, where it would be hard to flee. And she would be used to bring each black victim back to the mother to be hypnotized and bewitched. Now, what I'm about to say, I want to make very clear as we move forward. We should never make assumptions nor accusations, but we have a right to discern and give multiple possibilities of what it could truly be. You can't say that that doesn't remind you of the Kardashian family. How many men completely become castrated and destroyed by these women? The fact that the father became transgender should tell you something deep. It was the ultimate breaking point of the man surrounded by those witches. That he would rather become a woman so he would no longer be a threat to the witches, to the queen, hence the mother. Imagine a man more willing to be castrated than to deal with the constant onslaught of witchcraft behind the scenes. But could it be possible that Kim Kardashian is just another actress who can drop tears in the blink of an eye, who can be convincing like any other in the movie industry, but yet behind the scenes she operates high-ranking witchcraft power under the authority of her mother, the chief priestess? And if this is the case, then it matches up perfectly with Get Out. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe her and Kanye were not set up by the Illuminati as a pretend unification. Oh, you don't know that happens? Are you not figuring it out by now? How do you think the enemy could tear apart the image of marriage and family, but to have celebrities get married with a contract that only lasts for a certain amount of time and then fall out in divorce and separation to program the masses that this is not only normal, but it's the right thing to do? That the minute you don't get along and the minute things are not the way you want them to be, let's just separate, divorce, and I take my name back. This is what the enemy wants to propagate. Remember, the people that run Hollywood hate Jesus Christ and everything he stands for. And they believe that they are far above everyone else and we are all just cattle to them. And they know the greatest way to overcome those in the body of Christ is to turn God against them by having them live a life of sin. That is their greatest revenge against Christianity. It's not just blaspheming Christ and hating him personally, although they do that. It is causing the people of God to be brainwashed to love the world, to follow the ways of movies and shows and social media, and to live a life of sin. In doing that, they open up a door of sin. And in doing that, they caused God to come against the very people he died for. It's very diabolical. So it has to be a slow process. So is their marriage real, or is it just a contract to get more power because they gave a promise to the beast they would do anything for the fortune and fame? You decide. I lay it at your feet. It's up to you to decide by discerning the tree and the fruit on the branches. But if this is the case, then it matches perfectly with the movie. It is very evident that many of the people around Kanye West are handlers, but it's far beyond just him. There have been other celebrities that have cried out against the industry and were silenced, either by labeling them crazy or simply dying suddenly of car crashes or in a tub somewhere. But yeah, that's believable, right? Because we're going to bring all this together. So let's now talk about the movie, The Game, and The Truman Show. Very briefly, they both represent how orchestrated this system really is, and how many are inside working for the beast, pretending to be something they're not. Not only to monitor their victims, but to make sure they don't get out of line. And if they start to veer off that unrighteous path, they simply just captivate them and force them under mind control once again. I believe that's a good enough brief outline so we can save time in this documentary. That being said, I want us to analyze a handful of strategies on what is really going on behind the scenes with the people that have come into Kanye's life. Now, of course, we could do other celebrities, but I believe just using him as the example should be good enough for you to see the great agenda on the chessboard of deception. I want you to watch these videos, and then we're going to break them down piece by piece.
Hey, stop it. Hey, radio, you. Radio, you. Y'all don't want to lose again. A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why? Because y'all been lied to. Google lied to you. Facebook lied to you. Radio lied to you. I know it's a lot of real niggas working at radio. Real people. Real program directors with wives and kids that love music, that can't play what they want to play because they've been paid to play that bullshit over and over and over. And let me tell you something. MTV, you, once again, as always, I'm on my Trump tonight.
We're going to begin, though, with the latest on Kanye West. We're learning more about his breakdown, what was going on before he was hospitalized. West is now getting a psychiatric evaluation in Los Angeles. ABC's Diane Macedo has all the new details. Good morning, Diane.
George, good morning. West was being treated for sleep deprivation when his doctor reportedly called 911 saying he was psychotic. Now a famous friend of Kanye's is speaking out saying he saw warning signs. This morning, new details are emerging about Kanye West's alleged mental state as he was rushed to the hospital. Heard on this fire department dispatch call obtained by TMZ.
Rescue 41, psychiatric emergency, Laurel Avenue.
The 911 call came in around 1:20 p.m. on Monday after West was reportedly acting erratically. Paramedics and the Los Angeles Fire Department rushed to the Hollywood home of his personal trainer, where, according to TMZ, officials spoke with West for 90 minutes before following protocol for a psychiatric patient, restraining him. and taking him to UCLA Medical Center for an evaluation.
The doctor called 911 and said that Kanye was suffering a temporary psychosis as a result of a lack of sleep and exhaustion.
Now fans wonder if the emergency caused his abrupt decision to cancel the remaining 21 appearances of his St. Pablo tour. Just 48 hours earlier, the entertainer arrived at his Sacramento concert over an hour late and sang only 2 songs before this happened. West ranting for over 15 minutes on everything from the election to even Beyonce and Jay-Z.
And just like that, the dragon was able to reassemble the pieces on the chessboard of deception. Are you starting to see the bigger picture? It is very evident that Kanye West was starting to break free from mind control. And let's be real, it's not like he was preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, but any sign of rebellion against the authority of the beast is immediately dealt with swiftly, because the one thing Satan doesn't want is for those in the industry to rebel to the point they expose the darkness of his plans and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. So they deal with it like a cancer, small before it grows too big to control. And you could imagine the fear of celebrities, musicians, and athletes, politicians, and the list goes on, who know very well the consequence of what happens when somebody in the industry opposes the beast. Could you only imagine the threats that go on behind the scenes? Handlers and those that operate in high-ranking positions of psychological warfare, having the full authority to enter into these celebrity homes, threaten them and their children, hold them down, and force them into submission, putting them back under mind control. And using the chessboard of deception, having the news ready to spew whatever lie the dragon delivers from above them. And one of the easiest ways to quickly discredit somebody who has a public platform is to label them crazy or mentally insane. Because at that point, the masses who have been dumbed down will not take the time to discern on their own and judge it for themselves, but rather just take the word of the hierarchy of the beast, believing everything that spews out of the mind control devices. No wonder celebrities do not want to get out of line. With that being said, to save time, let us fast forward throughout the years to 2022, passing all the times Kanye West was just simply disregarded as insane whenever he has something outside of the box to say. And I want to talk about a video that recently came out where Kanye West leaked a private message between him and his so-called personal trainer. But it's very strange how his trainer is speaking to him. I mean, think about this logically. What kind of authority would a simple personal trainer have over a celebrity? Never mind the fact Kanye West was the most lifted up celebrity and the most wealthiest. What kind of authority is given to a personal trainer to make a threat like the video I'm about to play? You're going to hear him threaten Kanye West to be institutionalized and drugged to the point he will never be the same. I don't know about you, but it's starting to look like The Game and The Truman Show in real life. Those that are put into celebrities' lives whether they're a trainer, whether they're a designer, the mailman, those that are assigned by the beast to not only watch over these celebrities and monitor them, also on their technology, by the way, that if they get out of line, they have to execute the contingency plan to get them back under the spell of mind control by using the 3 levels of witchcraft: manipulation, intimidation, and domination. Watch this video and we'll be right back.
So, and to this date, right? Y'all done seen everything be proven. I got kicked out of the banks. Ari Emanuel asked all these businesses to stop doing business with me. Now, yeah, I was in negotiation with Adidas because that was my issue. They were getting lawyers to sign over my IP, different things without me being aware of it, like people signing on my behalf. And this is part of the problems I had with Adidas. So now the world has got to see how Adidas was as a partner. The fact that they would attempt to steal my designs. That's happened a lot in history, right? Right. But now y'all get to see it in real life. Like, and that's the difference. Like, let's read this Harley text out loud when he was threatening me, you know, forcing me to apologize, you know, about the frustration. And no one ever said, okay, this is what you're dealing with. Even the fact that TMZ is going to say Kanye West, right? And my name is legally Ye now. It's always some form of disrespect. No matter if you're the richest black man or what happens. What's up, bro? You part of this?
Sorry, it's ballet. It's ballet.
This what?
It's ballet. It's looking right now. Oh, ponte un poquito atrás.
Ya, por favor. Gracias.
Gracias.
Just go over there, man. We don't need you right now. It's just that he was a part of the whole making noise over there. Yeah. Alright, so let me read these Harley texts. This is how he was threatened. This is a trainer, but come to find out, he was actually Canadian intelligence, but this is my trainer. So this shows you the kind of handlers that are around the superstars in California, right? So it says, I'm going to help you one of a couple ways. First, you and I sit down and have a loving and open conversation, but you don't use cuss words. And everything that is discussed is based in fact, and that's some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you, or you saw in a tweet. Second option, I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you, and you go back to zombie land forever. Play date with the kids just won't be the same. This is the way a Hollywood trainer was talking to me to force me to go and like apologize, right? But even though you think about if Harley was part of intelligence, right? What kind of people you think are surrounding my kids? What kind of people you think are in that house right now? When my kids go to Sierra Canyon, it's a Jewish school that doesn't teach Christianity to these Christian kids. At Christmas time, they're teaching Kwanzaa to black kids. They say, hey, this is your Christmas. This is all indoctrination. This is all mind control. You gotta understand, like I don't believe I'm putting myself at risk because I think God uses me for a time like this. He put me in this situation and had y'all follow me from George Bush Don't Care to Beyonce Had the Best Video to now. For some reason, y'all are interested. 2 Chainz said, why sell belt buckle? Well, y'all think Dola's looking. Like, y'all are interested for some reason. And they wanted to medicate me every day. You realize, like, they could have just switched to medication and I wouldn't be here. And on the news, they would have said it was because of a mental issue, right? Yeah. I ain't never been back to the hospital since 2015, but every time they say I'm crazy, it's just when I'm saying the truth.
Then let's have a conversation. But you ain't gonna send Harley Pasternak
Harley Pasternak, Puff Daddy, Meek Mills, Kim Kardashian, none of the usual suspects, and get me to stop talking. You're going to have to take my life.
He posted a screenshot of Harley Pasternak, and this is what that screenshot said. He said, "I'm going to help you one of a couple of ways. First, you and I sit down and have a loving and open conversation, but you don't use cuss words, and everything that is discussed is based in fact and not some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you or you saw in a tweet. Second option, I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to Zombieland forever. Playdate with the kids just won't be the same." From his Wikipedia page, it says Pasternak is Jewish and grew up in a typical Ashkenazi household.
I was working on my PhD on exercise physiology and nutrition, got recruited by the military to help run essentially the superhuman lab, this laboratory called the Defense and Civil Institute of Environmental Medicine. And the area that I was interested in was how drugs and food affect muscular performance. And
when you say drugs, are that like performance-enhancing drugs, or are they
all kinds of drugs?
Oh, right, okay.
So working for the military, I wasn't governed by the same laws that the typical person was, so I could look at the impact of certain drugs that are not everyday things. So we looked at a drug called modafinil, which was for narcoleptics. So if you give a soldier this drug, how long could they stay awake for without having any health detriment? Keep you awake, but it's not a stimulant.
Really?
So if a special forces person has to stay awake for 3 nights waiting for the right opportunity to do whatever they have to do, we could give them modafinil and it would keep them alert.
And in fact, if you look at this guy's background, Harley Pasternak, from 2005 to 2007, he was working at the Canadian Department of Defense. Not just the Department of Defense, the Defense and Civil Institute for Environmental Medicine. This is actually the same branch of the Canadian Department of Defense that was involved in the MK-Ultra experiments. They've been experimenting with different drugs to create super soldiers. They were funding some of the quack psychiatrists that were doing horrific experiments during the CIA's MK-Ultra, where they were drugging people, giving them LSD, abusing mental patients, children, doing electroshock torture on them. Some of the documents actually came out during the Church Committee hearings in Congress. Folks, this is totally crazy stuff. And obviously, Kanye West is being subjected to something very serious right now. This is not just a personal trainer.
Let's see how well his other clients have fared. Robert Downey Jr. and Juliette Lewis both had mental breakdowns. Jennifer Hudson had 3 family members killed in a horrible execution-style shooting. Ariana Grande had a massive terror event at one of her concerts in the UK. Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, is a trans man.
You think about, if Harley was part of intelligence, right? What kind of people you think are surrounding my kids? What kind of people you think are in that house right now?
All right, I wanted to show you guys my Halloween decorations for this year. I decided to do like a skeleton theme. Super scary. Creepy hallway with my Terrell at the end. I don't know what they're watching in there,
but this is all indoctrination. This is all mind control. My mama was sacrificed.
Me too.
You understand?
Yeah, I'm appreciative.
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You know, out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize.
They want to monetize and traumatize.
Are you finally starting to see how deep this game goes on the chessboard of deception? And please keep in mind that Kanye West is just one example of what celebrities go through in the industry. But I do want to make a declaration that anybody in Hollywood that is able to be saved. God the Father has already extended his right hand of power to you. Jesus Christ, Yeshua the Messiah, can set you free right now. He can deliver you from the fear and the trauma and all the witchcraft that they have been operating against you to control your life. But you have to be willing to let it all go. Like the Lord said, the chances of the rich making it to heaven are very, very hard. So moving on in the Truman Show of Kanye West, I want to show you the strategy of psychological warfare and how certain people that entered into the life of him and his family was actually deliberately sent to trigger him like the Manchurian Candidate. We will get into that in a moment. But for now, I want you to watch this small compilation of videos, and then I want to show you what I believe is what triggered him to speak out against a particular group of people.
Had to remove his daughter's account because Kim was allowing her to post while being under the age of 13. He was adamant about bringing his family together and that he would do anything to repair the damage.
All I think about every day is how I get my family back together and how I heal the pain that I've caused. I take accountability for my actions.
But Kim is officially in a relationship with Pete, and he's even rocking a big ol' hickey on his neck. There was now a war. Kim and Pete are on vacations, going to the movies, making public appearances. Pete is spending time with Kanye's children, while Kim's security is preventing Kanye from seeing his kids. This is also where the internet highlighted a controversial joke from Pete about kids.
My friend, his son is teething, right? And so like we were watching Forensic Files, and I was just sitting there, and he's teething, so he just like grabbed my hand and started like sucking my fingers, but like good. Like I definitely left it in there for a second.
You can call Kanye West crazy, but who in the hell would want these two creeps around their children? Starting with Pete Davidson, who is dating Kanye's wife Kim Kardashian, who has made jokes about wanting to sexually a baby. Fans can start to feel Kanye's helplessness. He just wants to repair his family, but Kim is doubling down. She's moving on. Kanye starts dating different models, each of them having a stark resemblance to Kim, making sure the world knows that he is moving on. But the fans knew he was having a meltdown. Whether it was justified or not, he was struggling. He gave Pete a new nickname, Skeet. Kanye won't even refer to Pete by his real name. Kanye won't even collaborate with his longtime friend Kid Cudi because he and Pete are friends. He posted a picture of a civil war against Pete where Drake of all people is on his side, and a picture of MGK feeding Pete in his underwear. Pete is trying to break up my marriage and destroy my family. That was the narrative he was pushing. Now hip-hop fans were riled up. The Kanye and Skeet beef was trending worldwide, and to no surprise they were on Ye's side. Pete's response was a private text to Kanye in which he posted, "I'd never get in the way of your children. It's a promise. How you guys go about raising your kids is your business and not mine. I do hope one day I can meet them and we can all be friends." Kanye told his fans if they see Skeet to scream at him at the top of their lungs and say Kim Ye forever. He was putting Pete in real danger. Kim begged him to stop. He kept going. He released a song called Easy where he said, "God saved me from that crash just so I could beat Pete Davidson's ass," and depicted an animated version of himself decapitating Pete. Even Ye fans knew he was taking this too far. These are serious threats. Pete finally decided to stand up for himself, texting Kanye up and posting a picture of him allegedly in bed with his wife. After long messages of him begging and pleading with Kanye to get help but also leave them alone, the world is starting to realize Kanye is looking more like an insane and over-obsessive ex than a man being taken advantage of. Pete seemingly just got caught up in the middle. It could be his bad boy image, complemented by his extremely sensitive heart. It could be his humor. It could be his brutal honesty in a world full of Hollywood fakes. It could be his emotional damage that powerful women think they can repair. Or he could be merely just a pawn. Or he could be merely just a pawn. Or he could be merely just a pawn.
So who is Pete Davidson? Rather than going through so many videos of the whole situation, let us just paraphrase and break it down very quickly. Just as a script in a drama TV show, him and Kim Kardashian just so happened to be paired together on Saturday Night Live, where they pretend to ride a magical carpet, there's that magic again, and ultimately kissed for the whole world to see. And not too long after that, he entered into that Kardashian home. But my question is, remember what we talked about earlier. We have a right to discern and observe the fruit on any tree of any person or group of people, and decide with our own free will what the possibilities can truly be. So was it just coincidental that Kim was so hurt by the breakup of Kanye West that Pete Davidson just happened to come along at the right time and swift her off of her feet? And they were having such a great time together, and he was truly in love with the children. And or could it be that just like a Hollywood script in a movie or TV show, remember, these are all actors and actresses. I have to continue to remind you of this very fact. Could it be possible that Pete Davidson was sent in by the beast on the chessboard of deception to cause a triggered effect in Kanye West? Just like the Manchurian Candidate, there was a certain thing that was done that would activate the person to change their personality. I know you're probably saying, man of God, where are you going with this? Please hurry up so we can be on the same page. Please be patient. What if all the taunting, the taking the selfies in the bed and sending them to Kanye West for him to see Pete in bed with his own wife? Think of the anger and rage that will instill in a man when another guy sends photos of him in bed with his wife. And then on top of that, deliberate photos of Pete Davidson holding hands with his children, even having Kanye's daughter on his lap. First off, you don't allow no one's daughter on your lap, period. Second of all, this is the very man that it is said online has made jokes about doing something sexual with children. So think of how this is a constant barrage, a constant wave of mental assaults to try to trigger Kanye West, or should we say, change him. Do you really think Pete Davidson was truly just wanting to be a great temporary stepdad and so in love with Kanye's children? Or was he purposely being used by the dragon behind the scenes on the chessboard to get a reaction out of a man who is known to have public outbursts and then be called insane? And then you have to ask yourself, where is Kim Kardashian in all of this? Where is her mother in all of these plans? And those that are above them that orchestrate it behind the scenes? It's quite evident, if you have eyes to see, how the game is being played. But could it be that they were operating through the art of manipulation, through witchcraft, to turn Kanye and trigger him Just as lesser and greater magic, sigil, and other forms of sorcery used to demonically shepherd along the victim by causing a series of events to happen where they will be led astray in the path the enemy wants them to go to get the outcome that the enemy desires. Because there's something about Pete Davidson that you probably don't know. As Kanye was surrounded by a certain group of people that he ended up speaking out against publicly, and he started to put the pieces together, that his personal trainer, that the people above him that he was working for, and the list goes on, were of this very same group of people. But did you know that Pete Davidson, you know what? Let me just play the video instead.
And in fact, your ethnic background is just...
I'm just a
white
Irish Jew.
You're half Irish, half Jew?
Yeah.
Your dad was Irish?
My mom was Irish. My dad was Jewish.
Your dad was Jewish?
Yeah.
My mom was Irish. My dad was Jewish. Your dad was Jewish? Yeah.
Now the next video I'm about to play, I want you to pay close attention and tell me if you see any witchcraft being propagated, if there's any lesser magic or subliminal messages that are being administered on purpose by Kim Kardashian, as she is indeed part of a high-ranking witch society. I want you to watch this video when her and Pete first started coming together under the Great Truman Show, and let me know what it is you see. Did you notice it? Just in case you didn't, let me show you the picture. She's deliberately wearing a satanic pentagram. Why would she do that? I mean, she willfully put it on. What message is she sending to all her followers? I believe one of the agendas of the beast was to have Kanye and Kim look like they're propagating this whole Christian lifestyle, but after Kim tried Jesus, it just wasn't for her. So she went back to the dark side. I truly believe this is psychological warfare sent against all her followers to believe that Jesus Christ is a waste of time. And if their idol Kim, who started her career off by simply being a whore, let's not pretend as if the Bible doesn't compare a witch and a whore in the same category. Show me a whore, I'll show you a witch. Show me a witch, I'll show you a whore. This is biblical. All the women following her will now look at her as the idol and say, hey, she obviously gave Jesus a chance and it just wasn't for her, so why waste my time? Brothers and sisters, the occult runs very, very deep, and there's more people involved than you think. But while we're still in the whole Manchurian candidate and handlers around like a demonic Truman Show, I wanted to show you another side of Ye. Immediately, at some point afterwards, he started to date so-called date a woman by the name of Julia Fox. But you would think that a man who believes in Christ would not do such a thing. Brothers and sisters, stop being so naive. Stop being gullible and start to really analyze every tree by its fruit. Jesus Christ made it very clear. I would rather you be hot or cold, but if you're lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. I believe. Now it's one of two things. Which one is it? Has Kanye truly had an intervention at some point in his life where he wanted to know Jesus? Or is this part of the satanic Truman Show? Is this part of the moves on the chessboard of deception to go into Christianity and subtly draw out the youth to follow him back to the beast by teaching them to live a lukewarm lifestyle as if they would be able to make it into heaven living such a way? But I want you to see something. What if Julia Fox was also a pawn used in this game? Because afterwards, she came out with a video recently basically saying she only got with Kanye West to help out Kim and all her girls. But what if it was an inside thing? What if Julia Fox is actually a witch as well? I want you to watch this video and we'll be right back.
Okay, since I was just gonna write about it in my book and then have y'all buy it, but I'll just tell you guys for free. First of all, the man was being normal around me. And not only that, but the Kardashians, when I had a fashion line 10 years ago, they actually bought our clothes and sold them in their stores. And so I've always had a love for Kim, especially, and even Kourtney, especially, all of them pretty much. But no, the big three: Khloe, Kim, Kourtney. Those are my girls. Anyway, so by the time me and him got together, it was he hadn't been doing anything, out there yet. The only thing he had done was change the name in the song and said, come back to me, Kimberly. That was really the only thing when we met. But I remember just being he was texting me, I wasn't really answering. I was I don't really want to hook up with the celebrity again. Nothing, you know what I mean? Nothing ever comes of it. It's they're kind of boring. They're not what you think they're going to be like. But he kept going and going, and he was like, "Do you have bad text etiquette?" And then I was like, "Oh my God, Kanye's yelling at me. What do I do?" But then I had this thought, and I was like, "Oh my God, maybe I can get him off Kim's case. Maybe I can distract him. Just get him to me." And I knew, I was like, anyone can do it. It's me, because when I set my mind to something, I do it. And I will say that month that we spent together, he wasn't on Twitter, first of all. He wasn't on any forms of social media. He didn't even talk about his relationship. We only really talked about clothes and weird ideas and plans for the future and our hopes and dreams for childhood and education. And it was really beautiful, guys. The moment he started tweeting, I was out. And that's the thing. It's the media reported on our relationship, a week after it happened or something. So during that week, I think you guys all thought we were together, but we weren't. I'd already been dude, I'm not going to stick around for this shit. And also, I realized pretty quickly that he wasn't going to take my help. I was I want to help him. I want to help him. I sounded almost as dumb as you guys, saying that I should have done something to stop him from saying, what? But anyway, I was delusional. I thought I could help him. Anyway, it didn't work. And now we're here. But that being said, really deeply respect the man as an artist. I don't want to shit on that. I don't want to reduce his whole career to his really bad moments, But that being said, I stand with the Jewish community, period.
I'm gonna guess most of you didn't even see what I wanted you to see. Notice that while she was using her phone camera, it reversed and showed the background of the room she was in. Did you notice what was on the wall? Let me zoom in. Look carefully. What is that? What is that? Looks like an image of the devil to me. But then when you start to do your investigation, you'll come across another video like this.
I joined Uber One for the $0 delivery fee on roasted yams, Hawaiian pizza, no ham, and my favorite, untossed jams. Uber One's actually my favorite cult.
Uber One's actually my favorite cult.
So could it be possible that this witch was just another person to keep Kanye West going down a certain path to execute the plan that the enemy wanted Kanye to execute? Brothers and sisters, this rabbit hole runs deeper than you think. Now, before we proceed to the next part of this documentary called The Many Faces of Kanye West, I want to give some disclaimers so that way you and I are on the same page. Number one, let's be adults here. This is in no way a personal attack against Kanye West. In fact, it is very grieving to see what has happened to this man's life. But remember, he chose his own fate. And just because somebody is blessed and just because somebody is gifted don't mean they're going to heaven. Even Lucifer was anointed, but he chose his fate. With that being said, we are going to analyze some of the many faces of Kanye West. But you have to ask yourself, what are these different stages in his life where he would go from one extreme to the next? We are only going to judge it based upon his own actions. That means we are only going to judge a tree by its fruit. Statements that he has made, images he has portrayed, and actions that he has taken, and how the media and the masses have reacted in the things that he has done. Number two, this is not a biography about Kanye West, and I'm sure you have figured that out by now. Remember what I told you. Kanye West and many others just like him are only pawns in this game. Whenever the Antichrist is making moves and major things are happening in this world, he will always implement pawns to distract the masses from what is going on. Why do you think on a chessboard there are 16 pawns? Because the king is far in the back, with the queen, making plans while the pawns are sacrificed. You see, that king represents the beast. It represents the god of this world. It represents the Antichrist. The queen represents that harlot that rides upon the beast. And the one operating the board is the dragon above them. So I needed to let you know that this really doesn't have too much to do with Kanye West, but rather to break down his life as an example of how people are victimized at an early age and fragmented through trauma and used as mind control to push the Antichrist agenda across the earth. With that being said, let us continue.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. At least it came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. At least it came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
Now, before we start to break down and analyze the mind and the many faces of Kanye West, I wanted to tell you a quick testimony while I was editing this video. I don't know about you, but when I was in the world, I loved watching movies. And I understand now that it was a benefit because it allowed me to see all the symbolism and the secret messages that the satanic agenda through Hollywood has been propagating for so long. And from time to time, I like to watch movie trailers to see what the enemy has for an agenda in a list of movies that are coming out. And then I remembered a movie trailer that I seen a few years back that completely matches the desire and heart of Kanye West when he started in the industry. And not just him, but many that are next to him as pawns on the chessboard of the dragon. What is the driving force, and what did I tell you in the beginning of the video? Who are the people that Lucifer hand selects? None other than those who are like him, narcissistic, with a desire to be lifted up, no matter the cost. That's when I remembered this movie trailer. And if you read the description of what the movie is about, it is very evident it is exactly what goes on in the industry. And Hollywood puts out these movies as a mockery because people don't even see what is going on right before their eyes. Although I must warn you, this movie gives a lot of truth to what goes on in the industry. It is very graphic and demonic, to the point where I actually edited some of the trailer so it wouldn't be so graphic. Please pray before watching, and only watch if you know you're mature enough to see it. But you have to know what goes on in the industry, and after this trailer, you'll have a greater understanding of what drove Kanye West to sell his soul and so many that are like him. And with that being said, here's the trailer.
Welcome to Big Taters. My name is Sarah. Can I start you guys off with an order of our Freedom Tots?
We got all these people, all our friends. They're just sitting around trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out how to make something.
I thought you were avoiding me.
Why would you think that? Because I stole your role.
What's going on with you lately?
I work so hard. Every week it's a new class, a new audition. Hopefully you'll see something in me. I know I'd be great for this.
We'll be in touch.
Hello, Sarah. We'd like to see you again. And Sarah, this will be different.
Sarah, relax yourself.
Sarah, if you can't fully let yourself go, how can you ever transform into something?
I'm dying!
No. You're being reborn.
Your face would be on the poster on a wall in a lobby of a movie theater. A theater with a marquee. Kill your old life, Sarah. Bury it in the earth. And join us in the skies.
That's me. I'm your girl. I will do whatever it takes for this role.
That's me. I'm your girl. I will do whatever it takes for this role.
My brothers and my sisters, is this not exactly what goes on in Hollywood? Does not the devil hand select gifted, talented people that are desperate to be somebody great? And 9 out of 10 times, these are men and women that went through abuse, that went through trauma, that were rejected or abandoned. So there's a void in their soul to be accepted and loved because they did not receive it as a child. Notice that in the trailer, she had a sense of innocence to her, but it quickly mutated and she became demonic at the expense of just wanting to be famous, just wanting to be chosen as a star. Notice that they deliberately rejected her to create trauma-based mind control. This is the reality of the industry. And just like many others, Kanye West was hand-selected at a very young age. I truly believe that the old serpent has principalities and powers and demons that monitor children as they're born to search out for those that are gifted, for those that are anointed, so they can watch them as they grow and find ways to enter into their vessels, whether it's through trauma, rejection, abandonment, and the list goes on. And planting that seed, as I told you earlier, as they grow and the gifts start to develop, Satan makes his move to bring them over to his side of the chessboard. And sadly, this is exactly what happened with Kanye West. A sense of innocence and a little bit of a humorous person, clowny, you could say. And although he was in the world, he had a sense of innocence to him. But all that quickly changed as he was introduced to the industry. And when he was rejected as a rapper and they only wanted him to be a behind-the-scenes producer, that rejection stirred him up to prove himself more than most in the game. If you know anybody that is from the streets and especially has been in prison, they'll tell you that in prison, it ain't the big muscular brothers walking around that are the most dangerous, but rather the unknown and unrespected ones that feel like they have something to prove. Kanye West has been driven by narcissism and a sociopathic character at a young age. So we can clearly see that his transformation was a very fast process once he was accepted by Rockefeller. But it is speculated they only signed him as a rapper because they didn't want to lose him as a producer. And I would imagine this would fuel a greater fire in Kanye West to prove that he could do these things and he could be in the limelight and not just some nerdy beat maker in the background. Because in reality, that's how most of them looked at him. Whether they admitted it to his face or not, I'm sure they didn't want to offend the very man that would produce and make hits for them behind the scenes. But my question to you is, what was his promise to the devil? What was a man in his level committed to do? What would Kanye West be willing to do to rise to the top? Because remember, before this whole thing going on in the news about his comments about a certain group of people, he was literally the richest rapper in the game by miles and plummeted down way past Jay-Z overnight. But to get to that level of fame and that level of wealth, he had to have been willing to do something so diabolical. Are you starting to see it? Now, the question is, and what we have to do to be fair, is always leave a few end-rows, always leave a few choices on what the possibility could be. Because you never want to assume, and you definitely don't want to accuse. But when you stare at a tree, it don't take long to see there's oranges, if there's really oranges. So let us quickly go through some of the many faces of Kanye West and sit down and talk about it and see if we can discern the true agenda that is going on. Being that we've already exposed the beginning desire in his heart to be rich and famous and lifted up to the point he eventually would call himself a god. Being that we know he had to try harder than the other rappers who came in with a gangster appeal. He must have been willing to do more than the average rapper. He must have been willing to commit more wickedness to get to the top than the average rapper. So we see that kind of sort of innocent face of Kanye in the very beginning of his career, but that quickly was corrupted as he was introduced to the Illuminati in the industry, to those in the industry that are already involved in secret societies. Then there was a time when social media or the internet was calling him gay, and he would surround himself with very effeminate and flamboyant men. Even South Park was mocking him. I'm just trying to show you the many faces of Kanye West. And then together we will see if there was a greater agenda that the beast had planned. But then we seen him become much more bold when it comes to Satanism, admitting he sold his soul, promoting the upside down cross and the Antichrist spirit, wearing a Horus necklace and lifting himself up as God, claiming to be Jesus as a play on words from Jesus. And he starts doing rants and at some point becomes a Christian. Now, brothers and sisters, as I'm breaking down this timeline, I may have it a little off because I'm not a Kanye West expert, so bear with me. But at some point, he enters into the Christian community, proclaiming to be born again. And without even testing the spirit, millions welcomed him in, inviting him on many platforms, even Joel Osteen. Now, brothers and sisters, you know very well we should be excited when anybody in the industry says they want to know Jesus Christ. But we cannot be blinded because they were famous. We have to check them at the door and question their agenda and their motive. You see? Because the Bible says Satan enters in as an angel of light. So which one is it truly? Did he really have some kind of experience where he wanted to know Christ? Or did he have a sit down with those that answer to the beast? That his new assignment would be to enter into the Christian community, pretend to be a follower of the Messiah, only to draw the youth, in as many as he could, subtly out into the darkness. Because if you remember, at the same time he was claiming to be a Christian, he was also promoting music of the world. And Jesus Christ made it very clear that I would rather you be hot or cold, but if you're lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. So let's recap these faces of Kanye West. He was called gay online because of the actions he took and the people he hung around with and the way he carried himself. Then all of a sudden, he presented himself as a satanic person, wearing things of the occult, promoting the Antichrist agenda and lifting himself up as a god, speaking blasphemous things in his music. And then all of a sudden, he becomes a Christian. And then all of a sudden, he wants to be a president. And then all of a sudden, he starts speaking about slavery and how it was a choice. And then all of a sudden, he's promoting White Lives Matter. And then all of a sudden, he's meeting with the president. And then all of a sudden, he starts coming against those in the industry that he says are at the top. A certain group of people. And overnight plummets far past where he was residing at the top. Now, is this all simply Kanye West going through the motions and trying to find himself and ultimately finding Christ? Or is there a psychological warfare going on? Remember, those in the industry, those in Hollywood, are great actors and liars, very convincing. Why do you think movies are so believable? Because they can act so well. So which one is it? I want you to think about that.
I do what I do and I like follow my dream. I'm kind of successful at it. It's just a beautiful thing. I can say whatever I want. People just look at it like, oh, he's an artist. It's all okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they may say that to you, to your
to my face. Yeah, I want people to say shit behind my back, man. People talking, man. And then y'all looking at this like, yo, this nigga's an idiot. And that's exactly what I want you to think. So my mission is accomplished.
Y'all looking at this like, yo, this nigga's an idiot. And that's exactly what I want you to think. So my mission is accomplished.
Would you support DeSantis over Trump?
I'd support myself. I'm always the best choice. Look at anything that we've ever been in. Go production, albums, concerts, clothing. You know, I'm one of those historical Americans like Ford or Steve Jobs or Howard Hughes or Disney. I'm gay, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly looking to see if someone could do the job better than me. I just haven't found anybody yet.
Yeah, I want people to say shit behind my back, man. People talking, man. And then y'all looking at this like, yo, this nigga's an idiot. And that's exactly what I want you to think. So my mission is accomplished.
Now, there may be some of you that are saying, brother, you are reaching, man. You could be doing better things with your time. Let me make something very clear. Time is very valuable to me. I have to spend time with the Lord, time with my family, time doing ministry work. We're not talking some YouTube stuff. We're talking real ministry, traveling the country, doing conferences, responding to emails and phone calls, even dealing with local ministry and international ministry. So if I make a video, it's not because I got some free time on my hands. In all glory to the Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua the Messiah, for anything good that I do. It's only because of him, and he gets the glory. So with that being said, I don't believe in coincidences. So if you want to laugh this off, that's on you. But the reality is, I am showing you how strategic this witchcraft is operated. When they have somebody that they want to wage a war against, they operate in high-ranking witchcraft powers, greater and lesser magic, to perform rituals, to trigger people, to react the way they want them to react. I already showed you the literal definition of lesser magic. The head church of Satan was also explaining how easy this power is operated to manipulate the masses. But still, people don't believe. So I believe that this other pawn in the game, named Pete Davidson, who probably has his own layers of trauma, was sent in as a pawn to trigger Kanye West, a greater piece on the chessboard, to have another public outburst. But this time, Kanye would put all the pieces together, and they wanted him to react this way so that way they could shut him down, to use him as an example of what they could do to anybody who stands against the beast system. If you think this is about Kanye West, you have fell for the lie. It is way past this pawn on the chessboard. The same thing applies with Andrew Tate and others like them. They're only being used to distract the masses from what the real agenda is. Because if they can shut down somebody with billions of dollars over a comment, what kind of threat do you think they're telling you? If they can push one button and shut down millionaires that have millions of followers overnight, we're not just talking Twitter, we're not just talking TikTok, we're talking Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the banking systems, even Uber and Airbnb. And you think the beast system is not here? You think they can't go to level 3 of domination with the abomination? Wake up! In Jesus Christ's name, wake up! You don't have as much time as you think you do. These are sorcerers that promote drama and make-believe stories so they can usher in their agenda while you watch Kim and Kanye like it's a movie. But life ain't a movie, brothers and sisters. This is real. And the main agenda is your soul going with Lucifer to the place reserved for him for eternity.
Somebody pinch me and tell me this is nothing but a dream. I try to wake up, but deep down I know it's not a dream. I've been warning people about this day for more than half my life. That one day we'd have to make a choice between the mark and Christ. Like the Pharisees, they had the word but they didn't know prophecy. The road ahead is so cold, you sure you wanna take this walk with me? Speak the truth, you'll lose so many friends and even family. That's when you'll find out everything in this world is truly vanity. Somebody pinch me and tell me this has all been a dream. I try to wake up, but deep down I know it's not a dream.
You want to know the truth, my brothers and my sisters? Is the only reason I did this video talking about the Kanye West situation is so that way I could tell you about the greater agenda in the midst of the documentary. Because so many of you have been so deceived and conditioned by TikTok and social media that you don't even care about things that are relative to Jesus Christ. That so many of you only want to know about what is going on in the media, in social media, with celebrities and things in that category. But if I just come out with a video telling you that the Lord Jesus Christ is at the door. And the signs are here everywhere if you would just look around you. And most of these so-called biblical teachers and YouTubers online are deceiving you and deceiving themselves. So my hope was to do this video that you would be more apt to click on, that you would get the message in the midst of the message. That it's not about Kanye West, it's not about Pete Davidson, Kim Kardashian, Andrew Tate, or any other pawns in this game of chess. It's about your salvation. It's about where you are going to end up when you face God on Judgment Day. Where are you? Do you hear the voice crying in the wilderness? Are you right with Christ? Are you aware that if you take the abomination, it's over for you? Are you aware of what the mark of the beast truly is? Despite what thousands and thousands and thousands of so-called scholars and teachers online tell you the same thing in such a confident way. But are you sure you want to bank your eternal salvation on the strength of prideful, self-righteous, false teachers online? So many email me and ask me, when am I going to release It's Worse Than You Think Part 2? And for the longest, I was focused. But then I was grieved. I was so grieved in my spirit because I felt God's pain. And just like my brother said in the phone interview, let me just go warn my family. He said they got the law and the word and the prophets. If they don't listen and obey that, what makes you think they'll believe a man that is risen from the dead? I put hundreds and hundreds of hours. My family and I have sacrificed hundreds and hundreds of hours, time and dedication to warn you with video after video and documentary after documentary, only to have them removed. But although you have seen so many videos, you still struggle to believe what is the facts. Just like they didn't believe the Messiah when he was weeping before them. Just like the river Euphrates drying up, but you won't believe that, and you'll allow false teachers to explain it away as if it isn't what it really is. Because deep down, they're terrified as well. Because if they admit the abomination is truly on the earth, they have to admit that most of the people that they love have sealed their own fate. Not to mention them, when they use the excuse that I must take it to travel the earth and preach the word. The Bible says, what is it to gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Brothers and sisters, Kanye West has many faces. There was a time they called him a gay person. Then he went into the Illuminati field where he started calling himself a god, Jesus, upside down crosses, and all of the above. Then all of a sudden, he became a Christian. Then all of a sudden, he was lukewarm, going back and forth into the world. Then all of a sudden, he wants to be a president. Then all of a sudden, now he believes he's an Israelite. Can't you see his mind is fragmented? And the many personalities of Kanye West is happening to many people, not only in the industry, but around you in life. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know exactly everything and every plan, but God, the Most High God, knows all these things. Whether Kanye has a sense of sincerity or he's so cold he could put on an act to this degree. Do you think it is a coincidence that at the same time this pawn is set up to fall, because of an anti-Semitic comment. And at the very same time, the rabbi is telling people that he is talking with their Messiah. Could it just be that they're raising up these pawns to bring them down when they mention anything about anti-Semitism? That way, when this so-called Messiah is revealed, people will be too terrified to speak out and be more quick to believe. Jesus Christ prophesied it many years ago. He said, "You have rejected me, and I come in my Father's name. But if another comes in his own name, him you will receive." I could go on and on, but brothers and sisters, we are running out of time. I plead with your soul to repent and get right with Christ while you have time to do it. To prepare now with prayer and fasting, studying your word, and spending time with the beloved in Christ, and loving everyone around you, including your enemies. Because it's the Father's will that none perish, but yet people are dying every single day without salvation. You need to seek, you need to look in the mirror, and you need to question your life. Are you truly ready to face God? Are you living a life of sin? Are you doing drugs? Do you hate? Do you have hate in your heart for anyone? It doesn't matter what background they're from, whether they're Muslim or Jewish, whether they're black or they're white, whether they're male or they're female. Can't you see that Satan is trying to divide and conquer? It says, Jesus warned us in Matthew 24 that nation would rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. That word is ethnos. It means ethnicity. This is psychological warfare. Wake up! That's what he wants. He wants us to be at each other's throats so we don't unite in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Are you living a life of sin and fornication? Are you feeding yourself that which the beast is putting on the table? What is your appetite? What do you watch when nobody's looking? What do you listen to when you're all alone in the car? This will determine if you're willing to stand for Christ, even if it means at the expense of you dying for him. You won't make it if you don't start to seek God, if you don't start to weep before him, if you don't start to repent and truly live for Christ and cry out for the filling of the Holy Ghost. I'm telling you, you're not going to make it.